Whether you're a suburban athlete or an Olympic champion, you've got to work hard to get results. We've put over 15 years' experience into developing Active Man, combining vitamins, minerals and proteins. Active Man helps provide you with the nutrients you need to optimize performance and assist recovery. Discover the Active Man range, now available. Active Man, power up.
Welcome to this week's Power Progress podcast. And this week I have an amazing guest speaker, Simon Christou. Is that right?
Christou, you were nearly there, nearly. So close.
We met backstage Miami Pro because he's one of the backstage members, but also he's a prep coach. He also does competing like myself. I'll bring you in, mate. How you doing, mate? You good?
How you doing, Nathan? Good to see you. Good to be back. Let me just get a bit of adjusting on the camera so we can see my big old forehead or a five head.
Obviously, they'll be listening to this and it'll be on YouTube, so they will see you as well.
You can see the head.
We're actually covering quite a big subject, and that is the importance of cooking basic foods, isn't it? Super important.
Whether you compete, whether you just wanting to lose a bit of weight, add a bit of weight, it's so important because we'll cover that properly in depth now. But that'll be the main topic we'll definitely run over.
Yeah, 100%.
Obviously, Nathan, you coach people, you help people all across the country, and do your people cook their own food?
Yeah, I mean, for a start, the type of people I train are working mums, so they have a reasonable level of knowing how to cook basics, and entrepreneurial guys, and they're the ones who not necessarily the type to cook basic foods because they're always on the go all the time. So obviously, they're too different.
That brings the importance. It's a great starting line, Nathan. So if you're, for example, a stay-at-home parent, mum or dad, or if you're a working mum and dad entrepreneur, as you put it, Nathan, you still need to be prepared in your food, because if you are, let's say, for example, let's use a man who, for easy numbers, is 100 kilos, and it's currently, what are we? We're in end of February. So this chap's going on holiday to Ibiza. He's going to love his time there. He's going away in June or July, and he wants to get himself down to, let's say, 85 kilos because he's a bit chubby. He's going to need to know what he's currently eating, and when he is dieting down and you're laying the food out for them, if you are super busy, can you take your food with you? Can you cook it beforehand? Do you batch cook? Do you cook on the day? And the great importance of doing this is consistency. And no doubt this goes from everyone, whether you're entry level or you're super high end. If you're not consistent, you're never going to see the results that you want. Yeah. Because you don't know what you're eating. We've all stopped off in Boots or Sainsbury's or Tesco's and grabbed a sandwich and some extra protein. So we grabbed some chicken, but where's that chicken come from? Is it reconstituted? Is it pumped with water, sugars, and so on? So the importance of doing that starts first and foremost at home, in the kitchen, and Tupperware. I can't stress the importance of being able to learn the basics, which are, unfortunately, when it does come to losing weight and gaining weight, it does get a bit boring. It does, because it just happens. And you can't put loads and loads of ketchup on your chips because you probably won't have chips. You're going to have some baked potato, rice. I'm an advocate of. I'm a celiac, and I'm also lactose intolerant. So if I'm out and about, I can't run the risk of, eating this or that because I might have an upset tummy.
That's where it could be a little bit of an advantage in a way, isn't it?
Most certainly. So the importance of cooking the food really does start at home. So
yeah,
do you have time to get up in the morning? If you're rushed, you've got that extra 20 minutes. Everyone has. If you make an excuse, you're never going to achieve your goal. There's always going to be something, a hurdle, a bump in the way. I get it. Excuses are there, but excuses are made. And unfortunately, that's never going to make you reach your goal. It's
Yeah,
really,
I mean, the
it's
mind's
really hard.
powerful, isn't it? It'll find an excuse to, if you think about it enough, you
So,
see it to be true.
well, you see it in your clients that you train daily.
Yeah.
So the human body wants to find the easiest way possible of carrying out any task, whether that be, let's say someone's doing a bench press, just a basic bench press. We're trying to focus on our chest muscles here, but you're going to have front delts getting involved. You're going to have triceps getting involved because your body wants to make it easy. And like you say, the mind wants to do that. So how do we get around that? So do we get up earlier to make our food? Do we batch cook on a Sunday? I've done that before. I'm sure you have, Nathan. I'll explain quickly, roughly what I do, and people can take away from that what they will. I prefer to cook daily because, unfortunately, I'm eating 6 solid meals and 1 liquid meal. So I'm 7 meals a day at the moment. And I'd rather not have a fridge just full to the brim of Tupperware, and I've run out of Tupperware as well. And food, for me, I'm a little bit picky. I'd like to have my rice cooked on the day.
Yeah.
But if you can't do that, plan out what you're going to eat. If you're going to have X amount of chicken per day for 3 days, times it by 3, cook it, and then portion it out for yourself. It will make it so much easier for you to reach that end goal rather than having an excuse. How do you cook, Nathan?
Well, I'll go back first, because when I very first started doing the shows, I done 3 days prep in advance when I first started doing them. And then that did succeed and that got me the result. But what I found, the more I kept doing that, the more I was unwilling to eat the food, because like you said, bit fussy, you want things fresh. Then I went to 2 days, and now I prefer to do it daily, prepping wise. Now, the other things what I do sometimes, and I recommend this to clients if they're not really savvy with foods, cooking foods, I see what they can cook really easily or make. So, for example, say overnight oats they make the day before, and their evening meal they make, and they've got 2 choices with that evening meal. They can either prep it, make enough where they can use it for lunch the day after.
Good idea.
Or what they can also do is find a really good prep company where they can just pretty much tell them exactly what they want, and they can have the lunch done for them. So therefore, nice and easy, they're doing their breakfast in the evening, ready for the morning. They're making their evening meal because it's nice and fresh anyway. And then they've got that lunch. So there's quite a few options. And I flip to that as well, due to the fact I like a little bit of downtime of not having to do it all the time.
Of course, people have families, and we all have some sort of demand, whether it be job or whatever it might be. So I get that. I'm fortunate enough, I currently train out of Crayford, and we're lucky enough to have a kitchen in the gym so that you can go to there and they serve only 16 meals, 16 basic meals.
Mint, yeah.
And you can say, please, can I have this amount of rice, this amount of beef, and some vegetables? And then they'll pack it up, and then you're off and away. So what I'm trying to get at is, how organized can you be? First of all, get the most basic thing, which is a pen and a paper.
Yeah.
Write down your prep coach. Let's say Nathan's laid it out your food. Okay, I'm going to need this amount of food. Write it down, cook it for the day or for the 2 days, and you're good to go. Be organized and get some good sleep. Before we started just now, Nathan and I had a little catch up. We did mention that the ability for people to cook seems to have diminished. Nathan and I are on the should we say the older side of the fitness world. We won't reveal our ages, but I'm sure you can figure that out. And the basic cooking, whether it be, can you cook rice from scratch? I know there's the availability of microwave rice, but if your coach has laid out for you a raw weight food, you need to learn how to do this. And it's going to help you in the future as well.
Going to get you educated on what it is,
yes.
what the size of it is when it's cooked as well, isn't it?
What a fabulous, well, started then. What a fabulous way of looking at it, Nate. Because over time, you, me, and all of us so-called athletes, if you want to call us that, we can look at food and say, you've got about 150 grams of chicken there.
Yeah.
And because you get used to it, get really, really good at doing one thing first, then move on to the next one. Then get really good at that, then move on to the next one. Because Gordon Ramsay was never a super wonderful chef in his first 2 or 3 years. He got really good at that. Then he got good at this and good at that. And it's progression.
You probably got used to the basics and started adding to it. Yeah.
That's what we need to do. I really feel that as an industry, we need to get away from looking at quick fills. I'll have a protein bar. What's in the protein bar? It might taste delicious at one point, but can you cook the food first?
Yeah.
It's really simple. In a protein shake, roughly 1 scoop is 30 grams in weight. And depending on which brand, as we use Biosynergy, we get roughly around 27.8 grams of protein.
Yeah.
Which is fabulous, but some companies use lesser.
Yeah.
That 30 grams of let's call it 30 grams of whey, you can get that from egg whites. We can cook egg whites, super simple. How long do they take to cook, Nath? Couple of minutes.
Yeah. Couple of minutes. Yeah.
Couple of minutes. And we're talking about wholesome food. And I'd rather people eat and get used to eating wholesome food rather than looking down the route of, again, human nature.
Yeah.
What's a shortcut to that? What's a shortcut to this? If we can eat real wholesome food first, and then we can supplement, if I can underline that word, supplement our diet with supplements that we might need. And that's where we need to really, really look at doing that. And do I feel passionate about it? Yeah, I really do actually, because I sometimes get angry when I drive past a McDonald's, a KFC or something, a drive-through, and you see 20, 30 cars queuing for what?
Yeah.
Where does McDonald's come from?
It's just junk, isn't it?
It is junk food.
Yeah.
It's okay to have junk food every now and then for sanity.
Yeah.
But if you are looking to achieve the goal of becoming a better you, losing a few pounds, getting in better shape for your holiday or whatever it might be,
you
can't visit such places.
No. Again, you're just naturally going towards something which is easy, but not necessarily the best.
Yes, and I coach people who compete because I feel that those people who compete have a stronger adherence to doing what they're doing. I do also coach some people who are not competing, but I find that where they have their belt isn't as tight, should we say?
Yeah.
Because they're not going to be standing on stage with other people. They just want to get themselves into shape.
Yeah. So the pain of getting there isn't as, if you're competing, it's the fear of being on stage in your underpants looking like crap.
Yeah, and we've all done it. We've all been there. I remember my first ever show. I should never have competed because I probably was way too small.
Yeah,
and
same.
We've all done it, but we learn, and we're also learning from the mistakes we've done from eating food.
Yeah,
we've overeaten, we've undereaten, we've not cooked our own foods. We've just gone to a local supermarket and grabbed some cooked chicken. And like I mentioned earlier, where does the cooked chicken come from? And how on earth has it got a shelf life of 9-10 days? Because if I cook chicken indoors, I can't eat that next week. It's going to be rancid. So what goes into it goes into your body. You only get one body, you get one life. Let's try and keep that body is in the best shape as we can by feeding it with the most optimal food that we can find.
Yeah, and what we're educated with as well, because things are always changing, aren't they?
They are always changing. Go back to the 70s. Don't eat fat, so bad for you. Don't go near it.
Another one. that you can have so many eggs because it was bad for you.
Yeah, because you get a clogged up tummy.
Yeah.
That's not the case. So science is progressing. We've got a wonderful gift, which also can be detrimental, which is the internet. If you're unsure on something, you're more than everyone has a computer, everyone has a phone. You can Google something. It might not necessarily bring you the correct answer, but it will put you down that right avenue.
Yeah.
Because as we stand here now, I'm currently in the back end of my gaining phase. So I know that I have to eat the right foods in order to put on the right amount of weight, because I don't want to go back to my early stages, which is, of course, a long time ago. And I don't want to be that guy again. So can we make food at home? Yes. How do we take it with us? The pound shop sells copious amounts of Tupperware. It's £1. Put your meals in there, take them to work. Yes, it might feel odd to start with because you're the guy eating your food out of your Tupperware and the people next to you are having their sandwiches that they've got. But how do you achieve the goal? And it comes back to consistency. Consistency in training, consistency in sleeping, and everything else you do. Your current diet, what do you eat now, Nathan?
I will have a few ideas of things I'll do in the morning. So obviously in each of them, it's mainly eggs. So I'd have scrambled egg and super grain toast. That's
Can I just
option.
Interject there? The reason I'm going to sort of jump in and out is because from an educational perspective, an egg can be scrambled, fried, boiled, poached. There's 4 ways of eating the same food,
yes,
and it will probably taste different each way.
Yeah.
So don't be afraid to experiment. If you might make an absolute dog's dinner of the first 1 or 2, but that's fine because that's how you learn. The only way when you were children, we're running around and we pick up stuff and we put it in our mouths. Why? Because we need to learn what that is.
Yeah.
It's totally fine to make mistakes, people. Don't get disheartened if you're trying to cook your chicken in a fancy way, frying it, and it ends up tasting like an old boot because you've cooked it for far too long. You know, next time when you cook it a little bit less. Sorry, Nathan.
Yeah.
I just think it's really important to get this message across to everyone. I think it's really important. So breakfast is super grain toast.
Yeah, with different types of eggs, like you just mentioned there. I'd have the omelette. If I did, I'd have peppers and mushrooms into it. Yes. If I have scrambled egg, I do add egg whites in there, just the same as if I have an omelette. If I have the fried eggs, I'd have it with just 1 spray.
Oh, the 1 cow.
1 cow, because it's all it needs. And I'd have 2 eggs. Tend to have them eggs because sometimes I have potato waffles.
Delicious.
With it. And corn sausages, because I really like corn sausages. So they're like some of the options I'd have as a cooked breakfast. Sometimes I'd make it as a protein pancake or a banana pancake. So there are a few other ones.
I don't know what people when this is going out, but Pancake Day is when is it?
I think it's actually a couple of days' time. It's a little bit later.
In fact, how do you make your pancakes? People need to know.
I start with a banana pancake. Because this one's, people don't even know this. So you'd have your banana, you mash it, put a little bit of cinnamon powder, just a little bit. You'd crack 1 whole egg. This is what I do personally, crack 1 whole egg. And then I'd pour egg whites with it. So it depends on how egg whitey I want it. I have up to 8. So I mix all that in. And then purely, you would make it how you'd normally make a pancake. So you frying pan, 1 spray, you put a little bit of it, pour a little bit in once you make sure it's consistent, of course. And out of that mix, I tend to get about 4 pancakes out of that banana one. And then I can add things with it if I want. Quark cheese, another good little hacker.
It is very good because what you're getting there, Nate, is 1 egg and then you're having how many egg whites. So you're getting a small amount of fat from the yolk, plenty of protein from the rest of the egg whites, and a little bit of carb from the banana.
Yeah.
If you wish to increase that carb intake, you can have some oats in there, some blitzed oats. because that will also up your carb intake.
Yeah.
Or even you can, which I have done before, I wouldn't recommend it, is you can use other types of rice-based cereal. So if you have Rice Krispies, which you can put them in there, they work fine. Again, you can batch cook these. You can make 50, put them in the freezer or the fridge, just put a bit of paper in between so they don't get stuck. Take them out. You can heat them in the microwave. You can heat them in the pan again, and you can have them for breakfast, for lunch, after training, as a snack. Great idea. We've just covered, I've run out of fingers, just based around eggs, banana, and oats.
Yeah.
So that's just your breakfast alone.
Yeah.
And if you're feeling crazy and it's pancake day, there's so many sauces out there which are a 0 to very little calorie.
Yeah.
You can use them. You use them.
Yeah.
I use them. I don't see any issues with them at all. What's for lunch, Nate? What's the next meal for Nathan?
So it would most of the time involve rice. So this is where it would be literally purely chicken, rice, and veg.
Do you favour brown or white rice?
I think I edge white rice because I just feel the flavours go better with
everything else.
Everything, yeah.
But
it's not to say I don't like the brown. I do, but generally I like the white. I think it's easy to eat as well.
On the rice subject, I just want to mention, but there is a small amount of benefit in using white and also brown rice. So depending on the goals for people. Me, for example, my current calorie consumption on a training day is just over the 5,000 mark. And I use white rice because from a digestibility perspective,
I was going to go into that. Yeah.
It's digested quicker because it doesn't contain as much fiber as the brown rice. But if I'm looking to be satiated a little longer because my calories are lower, I may look to use brown rice because it takes that little bit longer to digest. It takes a little bit longer to cook as well. So don't cook them the same amount of time because you'll have crunchy brown rice and you won't want to eat that.
Yeah.
And so you're more white rice, even though you're currently dieting as well.
Yeah, I've just found it satisfying because for me, funny enough, it's quite easy to suppress my hunger, funny enough, which is why when I lean down, I generally find it quite easy. Because if I cut certain foods out, it does suppress my hunger very quickly. What
are your little tips, tricks, if you want to call them that, for satiating that hunger? Because we've all done it. Everyone's dieted. And, you get to that point where you're like, oh, I've eaten my food for the day, but I feel quite hungry before bed. How can I stop that? What do you do to stop that?
My little trick, what I use when I really drop the calories down.
You might want to record, make sure everyone's ready for this one. This is the hack number 1.
I actually put my breakfast into 2 halves. So I actually have 2 breakfasts with the same one breakfast.
So let's say, for example, that first breakfast that you would normally have is, for easy numbers, 800 calories.
Yeah.
You would have 400 calories at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
And then how long do you leave in between?
As long as I can.
Oh, okay.
But let's just say 4 or 5 hours. Let's just say.
So
I'm up early in the morning. So yeah, so I'm up at 5.
Backload the food.
Yeah. To make it even more easier to the listener, let's just say I normally have 2 eggs and 2 bits of toast in the morning, which is one of my go-tos when I am depleting because I find it very satisfying. Yes. I'll just have 1 egg, 1 bit of toast, and then I'll do the other one. But I may make that second one a little bit different and add a few egg whites with it and just make it more of a scrambled egg.
And different seasonings. You can. Yeah. It's totally fine to use a bit of some chili flakes, some salt, and some paprika, whatever you want to use. It's totally fine.
Yeah.
Spice. That's my hack, I think. Spices.
Yeah.
And I'm a bit of ashamed to say this. When I had plenty of just before COVID happened, so the back end of 19.
Yeah.
I had 4 shows in quite a short amount of time, and where I was trying to watch my calories, I had cucumber sticks, bits of cucumber.
Yeah.
And I would dip them in cinnamon because you're getting that sweetness of the cinnamon,
yeah,
and that wetness of the cucumber.
Yeah, nice one.
It's delicious.
Yeah, it's really good heifer. Yeah.
Just to go back one step, Nathan, I want people to be aware as well. Bread is okay. It's totally fine, people. We're not talking about a really cheap loaf of bread, because that's not what we want. What we're talking about is a good seeded, grained loaf.
I was going to say, that's where it's different between that and rice, by the way, because I'd have white rice, but if you want to be satisfied with bread, I believe you should always go more for the multi-seeds, the more multi-grainy type of ones.
Totally agree with you, Nath. And the reason why is because those seeds, they do contain elements of fiber, fats, and there's a small amount of protein in there as well. So if you're having fats with other foods, that slows down the digestion and the uptake of that food. So we know that calories from fats are greater, but just a small amount of fat will slow down that digestion, which I think is a really, really good piece of information for people to know that.
Especially in the mornings, because that will satisfy you straight away.
Most certainly. If you're that office guy, girl, who gets to the office and you start at 8 and you don't get your lunch until 12:30, 1 o'clock, that's between 4 and 5 hours with not eating. And it's for me personally, it's a long time. And I think it's for humans, I think it's too long, because I'm not a great fan of people fasting, because we are a machine in essence, and we need to be well oiled, and that oil and that fuel must come from good, solid, wholesome food. So we've covered nice breakfast, and then he splits it in two sometimes.
So split in two, and then basically what I do is I delay that lunch as long as I possibly can. So, and the reason is for that is because I do feel like the 2 breakfasts fill me up, but I also know I am more active as the day goes on, because I've got my classes, which I do online and obviously in person. And I'm going to have my weight workout at one point as well on that day. So I have my lunch around about 4 o'clock in the evening.
Wow. Yes. So you eat at early o'clock, whatever time that is.
Yeah. And then I won't eat again until say 1, 2 o'clock, which is my second breakfast. I'm talking mega calorie deficit for, and then lunch at 4. And then obviously I do all my bits, what I need to do. And then I have my dinner late as I can, say about 9 o'clock-ish, because then that satisfies me and it makes me sleep really well.
I'm a huge fan of going to bed full. And there is some science that says we shouldn't, but there's also some science that says we should. Because going to bed on an empty tummy, in my opinion, isn't a good idea, because you're focused on that one thing. You're laying in bed and you're like, oh, I'm really hungry. I could eat this, I could eat that. If you can go to bed full, at that point, you are now fully rested. If you're fully rested, then you'll digest that food very well. But a prime example, we've all had a big old roast dinner on a Sunday.
Yeah, you'll go to, in fact, on a Sunday.
There you go. So when you do have that massive amount of food, Nath, then what do you want to do?
You generally want to go to sleep.
Yes, because that's how we digest the food. So the blood rushes to the tummy because it needs to help the digestion, and we all want to go and lay down.
Yeah, parasympathetic, as they call it, isn't it?
That's exactly it. And we've slightly gone to the left of where our conversation started, but cooking, we have to bring it back, because the ease of the Deliveroo, the Uber Eats, the Just Eats, and whatever else, it's literally right there in your hand. Don't get tempted by that. Don't fall down that well. It's okay to take time to cook, to fail. It's fine to fail and cook.
Yeah.
And then once you get past that, in your later life, you might enjoy cooking because you know where the food's coming from. And that's one thing. If you have ordered your food from one of the delivery places and it turns up, you might think you're eating, I'm only eating a chicken shish with some salad. But how long's that salad been there? What's the salad been sitting in? What's it dressed in? How long's that chicken been there? Where's that chicken from? Try and be clever and smart with your choices rather than lazy.
Yeah, I was just going to go in there and say that the interesting thing is the more you do it yourself, obviously you get educated, but then when you do go to get a takeaway, you realise how poor quality it actually is because you've got that awareness and education of doing it yourself. You can actually taste it. I think that the last takeaway Indians I had, I mean takeaway, not going out for food because I think it's slightly bit better quality, but I could actually taste the salt in it. I could taste the sugars and I could tell it was a lot of oil in it. I could see it. But these things, if you don't start it from basics and do it yourself, you're not even aware of seeing that sort of stuff.
I can't agree with you more. You mentioned something there, Nathan. You mentioned the word salt. And I think salt gets a really bad rap because salt is a mineral, first and foremost. Salt is a natural mineral that occurs on the land and sea. We use it because we need it.
Yeah.
But by having these little sachets of salt that you get from takeaways and table salt, that's man-made salt. That is not good for you at all. But by having a Himalayan pink salt or any type of crystallized salt, which you have to crack and break, that is what we should be using. By using that table salt, you'll start to find that the body starts to hold unnecessary water because it's not used to that. And you start to panic. Where's this water coming from? Am I getting fat? No, we're not. So understanding your ingredients is so important. You as a coach, Nathan, you lay out diets week in, week out. In your diets, you never write down and say, Monday, you get your food from McDonald's. Tuesday, you can have some Nando's. Wednesday, have some KFC because it's chicken. No, wholesome food is the road we want to be going down. And if I can do anything from this, is just to help people understand that you're all capable of cooking food. Nathan mentioned just then about once you've cooked your food, you look at it and you start to understand that, look, what I've got here is 100 grams of rice. I've got 150 grams of chicken. And as days and weeks progress, you'll get really, really good at understanding how much food to do. And I'm not saying you'll stop weighing the food, but you'll get used to it. You'll know how much to do. So it comes from just being consistent again, being really consistent. And water, yes, it has some BCAAs in, this does, but water is so important as well, because if you're eating all this good food, we also need the water to push it where it needs to go to. Without it, you're going to find it quite hard to consume your food.
Yeah.
Do you have any meals where you have trouble cooking, or you just know what you're cooking all the time, Nathan?
I know what I'm cooking all the time. I mean, I do like to have a bit of spontaneous in my cooking, and that's why I do like do my week shop, and in the evenings we can decide collectively as a couple to go, shall we have that tonight? Because we know they're going to be healthy anyway. Good. So when we finish off what I have in the day, that can be anything from sweet potato, we'll make from scratch, could be Sweden mash, it could be rice still, it could be pasta. You know, we can go for all these with carbs. I like variations of bass fillets, love them, salmons, tuna. maybe the vegan options as well, other meats, the list goes on.
So you backtrack you one step, shopping. I must hit that subject while you've hit that. Shopping. I don't think shopping weekly works for me. So I shop every 2 days because I know that I'm going to eat this amount of food on Monday, this amount of food on Tuesday, and then Tuesday night I shop for Wednesday, Thursday, and so on and so on. If you don't have much flexibility in time, please write a shopping list, people. Don't feel embarrassed that you're walking around the supermarket looking at your phone or you've got your pad or your paper. It's fine, because don't go shopping without that list and don't go hungry.
Yes, key. Yeah.
You're going shopping for a reason. And that reason, again, is that end goal, which is all the way over there. It's hard to reach. And when you go shopping, if Nathan's given you your diet and it says you're going to have A, B, C, and D, then you need to go and buy A, B, C, and D. You won't be able to remember it all in your head. You might get home and think, I've only gone and forgotten all my fish. And then what happens? It means you're unorganized. It means you're going to potentially cheat. And then you're taking a step back. So organization is so key.
Yeah.
And you also mentioned that you go shopping with it's your wife now, isn't it?
Fiance at the moment.
Fiance, yeah. I beg your pardon.
But
sorry.
We can might as well be.
Your future wife. So if you go shopping, and this is quite an important subject, actually, I think. If you are in a relationship and you both live together, do you cook separate meals?
Even the meals are always together.
There you go.
That is our ritual, that we eat together in the evening.
It's a good thing to have.
Yeah.
It really is. Because you get to have the conversation, which I think has gone from the whole world, along with our cooking skills. It'll be very interesting to do. And I think that's something you could put as a poll up, Nathan, actually, maybe next week, just to see what we get. Who can cook the most basic foods? Just can people cook them?
Yeah.
Can we cook chicken? Can we cook salmon? Can we cook steak? They're basic foods. And we said this earlier on. It seems like it's disappeared. The ability to cook in the UK doesn't seem to be there anymore.
No. And that could be a challenge we set with people as well, that if you're listening to this and you can't remember the last time you've actually cooked your own meal from scratch, that's a challenge. Do that and give us a comment. That'd be really good.
I challenge you to cook your own food, tag Nathan and say, I cooked this.
Yeah.
Yes, we don't want to see someone cooking some fried chicken and chips. We don't want to see that. We want to see what people are eating. So don't forget, tag Nathan. Let him know what you're eating. It'd be great to see what we're doing across the country, because Nathan, you now live in the north.
Yes, that's right.
in the chilly north. So I know it's the same country, but the foods are slightly different. Mm-hmm. They really are. And down here in the south, the foods are more or less the same, but they're still slightly different. Go back a couple of steps, Nathan. Sorry, we keep going sideways. So we know what you're having for your afternoon, breakfast, afternoon, and what are you eating for the last meal?
Yeah, and just like I was saying, I think that's quite spontaneous, but that would be, another good one. What we've had once a week, 2 meals. What we have once a week. This one is a bassa fillet Thai curry.
So for those people that don't know what a bassa fillet is a type of fish. It's a white fish, very similar.
Quite meaty.
Yeah, very similar to cod in a way.
Bit meatier than cod, but yeah.
And some of them now, they come like with a slight dusting of like a, not batter, but it's like a coating, or you can buy them in its raw format.
This is just plain,
there
plain
you go.
batter.
And then you put it into a Thai curry.
Yeah, we get the coconut light, and we either make the mix ourselves or we get a paste. Very simple. Boil the veg, which is the runner beans and the baby corns. Boil the rice. Bon appetit.
Wonderful. So how easy is that? How long does that take, Nathan?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. You could probably put it all on and then have a quick wash if it was in the evening.
Yeah.
And then when you get out, your food's more or less there.
Yeah.
I did mention earlier about convenience. I cook daily and I currently eat 6 meals. I don't boil my rice. I have a rice cooker. I originally, years ago, I had like a cheap £20 one that I got from Argos or something. And after too much use, it just fell over and died. And the rice cooker is the way forward. If you really don't want, if you can't cook rice, just buy a rice cooker. You put the rice in, you put the water in, you press start.
Yeah.
And that's it, everyone. Like that's literally it.
Like an air fryer as well. That's another thing, just simple as, you know.
There we go. I have an air fryer and a rice cooker. I cook more or less everything in the air fryer. My potatoes, air fryer. Just chop them up. I don't put no spray. I just put the potatoes in, and it cooks. So that's a hack. It really is a hack. It might sound like we're trying to work for Curry's, trying to sell, but it really is. It's a hack, because these are things where you don't have to wait for you haven't got to turn the big oven on. You haven't got, these are so important to get this done to achieve your goal.
Yeah, definitely.
To make it easier for you. Because without that, we're never going to achieve them goals. It's so difficult. It really is.
I mean, before we wrap this up, so the people I train are 35 to 50-year-olds, so they have a certain level of experience of cooking, either it's boiling an egg. But before we wrap this up, you mentioned before this about the survey related to, was it 20-year-olds?
So there was, I was doing some reading, and there were 2 surveys. And the first one was to, how old are you in the last year of primary school? 10, is it? Give or take? I think it was 10-year-olds. Yeah. So they surveyed 1,000 children in year 6, and they asked the children several questions, food relating, and it was, where does beef come from? That was the first question. A lot of the answers came back were Sainsbury's, Tesco, and some other people were saying cheeseburgers, McDonald's, because the exposure to food for people probably under the age of, would you say 25, is really solely around this convenience food. And another survey, which the same company conducted, they asked university students, I don't know how many they asked, how long does it take for a soft-boiled egg and a hard-boiled egg? No one knew the answer. But these basic principles, the skills, we really want to bring back. And when Nathan's down, hopefully, what we're going to do, and this, he doesn't know this, I'm just putting this on him right now. We're going to do a small cook together.
Oh, we have to. That'd be brilliant.
Yes, because we can show people. Are you staying in the hotel when you're down?
Yes.
There'll be some sort of cooking facility potentially in the hotel.
Yeah.
But it depends on where we stay. So that's what we're going to do. The next collaboration will be, firstly, we'll be training, and then we'll be potentially cooking. And you might even see Nathan, if it's post-show, do you want to see Nathan try and eat 10 or 15,000 calories in a day? Can he do it? Can you? I reckon you could. Yeah, of course he could. Yes. So those skills have disappeared, and it'd be great if anyone can take away from this. Don't be afraid to attempt to cook. Don't be afraid of it, because you'll only get better. That's the best way to put it. You'll only get better in cooking and in yourself. Agree?
That's a great way to finish. I think people are going to be mega inspired to listen to this today.
I really hope they do. If Nathan and I have waffled on a little bit, it's because we believe in it. We really wholeheartedly, genuinely believe in it. We actually live and breathe it. So Nathan, I'll leave it to you to wrap.
Yes. So it's been great this week. It's been great to have you, mate. And
Loved it.
yes, we'll definitely catch up and we'll do some sort of cooking or something in the future. But drop us a message. Let us know if you've been inspired by this and you've actually attempted to cook. Maybe it's something you haven't done in a while. But otherwise, we'll wrap it up there. And great to have you, mate. I'll see you later.
Great to see you. Cheers, Nate.